Today I'm very excited because we're going to be showing off some hard-hitting drums, some that might even make the Billboard Top 100. Let's dive into it. So what's up guys, welcome back to the channel, Chris here. So like I was saying, we're checking out drums today, and in particular, I was gonna say pop drums, but I guess they could be pretty universal. We're looking at modern live drums by PopLab Sounds. We've actually taken a look at these guys before. Check out the video up here about their samples Billboard drums. Really cool stuff. Today we're looking at modern live drums. So far, really vibing with this plug-in pack. I mean, plug-in pack samples, it's kind of an all-in-one bundle. They've made their packs or their samples available on all kinds, whether it's Kontakt, simply within your DAW, in this case Ableton, Logic. They've got packs made for everything, so you can use these samples across the board even if you don't own, say, Kontakt or whatever it may be. They've created a really universal kind of process to use them. But anyway, I'm getting carried away. Also, just a quick reminder, don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's crack on. Modern live drums. The concept is basically that these sounds are curated to kind of live in the world of some of the current hits that you're hearing on the radio. With that said, we've got, if I open up the browser here, you can see we've got some names in there, obviously referring to some of the kind of main artists or producers that are currently being played on the radio. Just to give you an idea of some of the sounds that we've got access to, each of these presets actually has a preview. So let's quickly just listen through some of these and see what some of the examples are. So you can hear that we've got some lovely variations. Let's check out the actual main page. We're running it right now in Kontakt. Personally, I think this is the best way to experience it because they've got all of the sounds in one. They've obviously got this nice kind of UI, got some controls to actually play with the samples, punch, expand, shorten, this kind of things. They've tried to copy this across the board, whether you're using kind of the built-in DAW samplers or using Kontakt, but there'll be some subtle differences, you know, just is what it is with this kind of thing. But I really love that Kontakt actually tells you what each key is, representing each sound, so it makes it really easy, you know, when you're bouncing between the packs to see what the differences are. So you heard the example at the start of the video. Let's quickly dive into what's going on here. So let's just solo the drums. So in this instance, I am using the Punchy Olivia kit. However, I know some of these loops, I'm using different packs. I've actually just frozen them because since they're loops, and they start when the note is pressed. If I had to play from anywhere else in the track, it will start that sample again. So at least freezing them just is almost like working to audio, and they'll play from where they left off. So in this case, we're using Nick for one of the loops and Kelly on one of the other loops, whereas everything else, I believe, is Olivia. It's very nice. So let's hear them in solo. So then if you hear it all together, we've got... So even just off the bat, the samples sound super crisp, super high quality, very modern, as the name says. And just to give you an idea of what I'm doing regarding mixing, it's basically nothing on the drums. I've got a little EQ on the kick. I'm using Orion on the drums, but again, it's more just giving me volume or perceived loudness than it is actually giving me a sound. Otherwise, they sound pretty much as they do straight out of the pack. Let's open a fresh project just so we can play through some of the sounds and actually get a feeling of what we've got in store here. Okay, so we are in a fresh project. Let's hear some of these drums. Okay, so there are some sound examples for you. As you can see, we've got loads of flavors. Each pack kind of has their own unique taste, which is really nice because you don't necessarily just have to stick to one sound. You can find the kick from one or the snare from another and really kind of intermingle these samples together. Talk about the layout. First of all, I really love how they've laid this out. Most of them seem to be the same, some with more, some with less samples. But I love the fact that you've got kind of a main snare, you've got a snare that you could place at the end of a repetition, you know, a 4-bar or whatever. And then you've got a fill, which is a similar snare, but just less, almost as if you're hitting a snare softer, something to add as an accent or something as a ghost note, you know. You've got these variations, as well as having the same with some of the hats and a clap or a rim. Percussion, you seem to have a little bit of a mix in there. You've either got toms or bongos or whatever, some flams, crashes, you've got a few rides. And then the loops. The loops are what I really find interesting from this pack, is how appropriate they feel. I've always been on a hunt for whether it's a certain shaker loop or a tambourine or something like this, and sometimes it feels out of place, but these feel generally across the board really usable. You know, I don't really have any complaints. Also, they're all tempo synced, so whatever the tempo of your project is, the loop will most likely sync. However, you know, if you're maybe double time or half time, you might have to work around that, but I do really like how it's sounding. Let's dive into some of the extra controls we've got here. So at the top, we've got 2 filters, as you can see. So if you wanted to get that maybe more intro sound, you can do the same with the low end and make it thinner. Right, so you got those options. Then you have these controls here: punch, expand, shorten, and width. They're pretty self-explanatory, but let's hear them. So very simple controls, but give a wonderful difference to the sound. I just like things that do what they say on the tin. You know, it's pretty self-explanatory what those controls do, and they work really well. So very nice to see that. Next off, we've got the edit page. So this allows you to actually adjust the individual samples in the pack. Say you want the snare to be shorter, you can go and do that. Or if you want to apply some of those controls, such as expand and punch, to adjust that sound, you can do that. We also have the filters built in. And then you can even change things like the pitch, which is really good. And that's one of the beauties of using the Kontakt sampler for these samples, is that it gives you a lot of freedom, and it being a sampler, it handles playing with these samples very well. We've also got the start point. This would be convenient. There was one of the packs that I noticed the snare felt a little bit like late, and I'm sure it's just part of the programming for it. Like this one, Big Shane. It just feels like there's ever so slightly a little bit of push on the sample, so I can always go and tighten that up by pushing the start point a little bit closer. And also what's really nice is the fact that you can also do multiple outs. So in this case, everything's just coming out of one track. But if I wanted to have one MIDI track and then have the sounds just come out as different stems. On the last project, I just had a different plugin per track, but you could actually just create a bunch of audio files and pick the actual output in Kontakt, which is very convenient for using less CPU on a session, you know, especially if you're a bit limited with that, and keeping everything in one package. The last things I want to touch up on are you've also got volume per sample. So you can see in here they've actually already been adjusted beforehand, but you can go and change the volume. You can even change the panning, just by clicking on this, moving up and down. And you've got these settings, which it's not much, just velocity sensitivity, your multiple outputs in case you've done any patching and you want to change it, any routing, sorry, should I say. And then MIDI select. I'll be honest, not 100% sure what that is, MIDI select. Lastly, you can actually take the pattern from the preview. So say I want to use that, I can click and drag here and it gives us that pattern. I want to keep the tempo the same. You can basically inject those patterns straight into your productions. So it saves you a little bit of programming in the meantime, which is great. So for those of you that don't actually have Kontakt, I'm going to show you what you actually get in the folder when you get this pack. So I've got Modern Live Drums here. You can see we've got all the independent samples of all of the sounds, kind of variations, high, low, A, B, all this kind of stuff. If we go into the organized pack, this is where you just get kicks, snares, this kind of thing. You get the fill snares, all the layered stuff. It's actually very well organized and laid out. We've got some drum loops as well as the loops that you would get in the pack. In MIDI files, this is where you get all of those patterns that we were just taking a look at. And then lastly, in presets, this is where you get those variations of, in this case, you've got drum racks for Ableton, drum racks with previews. So if I click on here, can actually internally preview those. In Logic, we've got, I mean, they're labeled as patches, but I'm assuming it's the Logic sampler and the drum sampler as well. And then just all the independent samples if you need those for whatever reason. But that's about it for this video, guys. Just a quick reminder that this video wasn't sponsored. However, PopLab Sounds did get in touch to send me the pack if I wanted to, you know, check it out, and I did, and I'm super in love with it. Again, I was really enjoying the Billboard drums pack, so when they got in touch to work on this, I was very excited because I had seen it kind of floating about in the background. But that's about it, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The support really helps, and thank you to anyone who's already done so. Also, feel free to leave a comment below. What do you think about these drums? Do you think they hold up to some of the packs and sounds already out there? Do you feel like they kind of fit that modern sound that we're currently hearing on the radio? I'd love to know your thoughts, so let us know in the comment section below. But that's about it, guys. Once again, I've been Chris Fella, and I'll see you on the next one.